Nearly every immigrant that traveled to America brought folk music with him. It wasn't written down, it was learned by memory and passed on. Europeans and Africans brought folk songs hundreds of years old that helped them remember the people and the land they left behind. Gradually, new and unique American forms of music began to emerge from these folk traditions. Today, we refer to this music as American roots music, and this is its story.
American roots music's heritage comes from characters. Here we sit at the tip of a brand new century, but if you look backwards for the last 100 years, it's not so much the disposable pop fluff that gives American music its sustaining qualities. It's the root system in each form of music, whether it's Zydeco or bluegrass or gospel or blues, that gives this entire new century a canvas to paint.
Music really has been the ground we stand on. It really tells us who we are. We would not have survived without the sounds of our singing and the sounds of our music.
Don't matter how many generations come and go, music is still a constant flow of water. It may flow over here into commercial music, and it may flow over here into real old-time music, but there's something about that stream that still connects us, to the old, and I've got to have that to sustain my life.
To some extent, the evolution of roots music is that we have learned to accept one another for our differences.
American roots music is made up of all the other musics that came here, with all the people that came here. And then it all got combined here. That's one of our great American legacies.
As the 20th century began, most Americans were not aware that this relatively new nation had a musical heritage of its own. However, with the closing of the frontier and a raft of new inventions by people like Thomas Edison, Americans became more conscious of the unique music being made in this country. In the West, Native American music, played and sung on the land for centuries, began to be recorded, collected, transcribed, and filmed. All across the land, work gangs were adding new rhythms to an ancient African call and response style of singing, which became the foundation for the blues.
The basis of all of what we hear today comes from the music that we heard yesterday. That's authentic. That's real.
Down in Georgia, fiddlers were heading to Atlanta, where they would gather in the municipal auditorium and compete to see who could play the best version of Turkey in the Straw or Cackling Hen. In New Orleans, jazz was being played by musicians like Buddy Bolton and Louis Armstrong, and would soon infect the nation with its popularity. Over in Asheville, a country lawyer and fiddler, Bascom Lamar Lunsford, organized the first real American folk festival, primarily as a way to lure tourists to use the state's newly built highways and visit North Carolina's mountain wonderland.
Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you mourn. Oh, Mary, don't you weep, don't you mourn.
African Americans from all across the South were using new instruments and singing styles to praise God.
The genealogy of how this music came from Africa with slaves and how it transmogrified with Christianity and gospel music and field hollers and work songs and prison songs and songs of inspiration for civil rights and the protest movement. A tradition that is so rich that to not study it is robbing us of our national heritage.
Out in Texas, folks were reading a new book by a Harvard man, John Lomax, entitled Cowboy Songs and Other Frontier Ballads. This was one of the first real book-length collection of American folk songs and roots music, and featured the song Home on the Range. In addition, mass-produced instruments like the fiddle, guitar, and banjo could be obtained from mail-order catalogs by anyone. Throughout America, working-class musicians were also beginning to travel beyond their communities on highways and railroads. Some busked on street corners, while others performed in vaudeville, medicine, and Wild West shows. As the different cultures of America began to merge and intermingle over the years, so did the music, creating a rich gumbo.